Sue Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Get ready to find your free will from your roots in the stars.
Hi, Sue Rose Minahan, Talk Cosmos host since 2018, and today is February 20th, 2021, and we're talking about the lunation cycles. Every month, new moon, full moon. This time the full moon's first, and that particular date it'll be a Virgo full moon at 8 degrees and 57 minutes, and then it'll be a Pisces new moon much later in March on the 13th at 23 degrees. So we have lots to talk about, and now it's time for a Moonbeam Team.
Relating to the sun and moon's energies, including the planets and the entire cosmos for the month's systematic 2-week intervals of the new moon and full moon, plus the annual 4 to 5 eclipses, this is your Moonbeam Team.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, certified astrologer, sacred healing counselor, tarotist, and numerologist, providing individual consultations, teaching and tutoring internationally, co-author of Gateways to Change, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life, currently facilitating workshops in Marysville and Camino Island, Washington.
I'm Katherine Metcalf, professional astrologer, intuitive, and tarot card reader. I am very blessed to live my passion by offering individual consultations and teaching classes at a local college and online. I love to talk and write about the planetary dances and how we fit into it. I have been lucky enough to be featured on NBC, Cosmopolitan Magazine, and Huffington Post. My goal is to educate, enlighten, and empower you.
And I'm Sara Stromley, a craniosacral therapist and founder of Brain Body Therapy in Kirkland, Washington. I'm an evolutionary astrologer that incorporates different forms of horary, location mapping, and medical astrology into my practice. I enjoy uncovering flower and mineral frequencies that also support the mind-body coherence that aid in the healing journey.
And as Albert Einstein said,
energy is never destroyed. Energy only changes.
And so the chameleon of life goes on, yes, as we are changing. We always begin every panel session with a comment that each one of us makes, some synopsis of what the energies are about. And of course, it's moons. It always takes me a little off guard because I think, oh my gosh, that's what we're doing and what am I thinking? It's not premeditated, I must say. But I will say that because it's an emotional process, I mean, the full moon is in Virgo, which involves Mercury with the moon, that it's really a matter of releasing the secrets from ourselves. Like, what are those? And to ourselves that we don't even know. So who would like to go next? Sara? Can you hear me, Sara?
Yeah, I just had to unmute. So, yeah, there's just a lot of. I love how these moons are very strengthened by help to strengthen the emotional body and both strengthen and open it up to receive new. And I'm really excited about these, just the energies of these, and we'll get into that in a bit.
That's great. Katherine?
Hi. Yeah, are we just commenting on the the full
On
moon?
some, no, it could be anything. It could be new or full. You could do, I mean, you could do the new moon if you'd like. Just some little, and I hadn't perhaps explained this because I realized we're still digesting the whole process of the show, but it's as though you're looking at a mural and you notice one thing and you go, you know, I like that, or that I think is important, or what about that? So some idea
Okay.
about the
Some
whole
little
energy. Yeah.
tidbit.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I think what's cool about watching the energy of the moon is that one always leads to the other, right? We're like on this continuous path of planting new seeds and then watching it grow and then harvest. And yeah, it's cool. And it plays out in our personal lives and globally.
I love that. It's a story, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
exactly what the moon is. Yes. And Liz, what would you
Well,
add?
with the Virgo full moon, it's like organizing and releasing as the moon is in the 8th house for the East Coast. So, and I've been doing some of that myself. And so it's like joint resources, time to do your taxes, but then also your own personal finances and values.
Back to values. It's so true. Well, let's see. And for the folks in our audience, we are using the East Coast chart that is at 3:17 a.m. and that's February 27th, which is a week away. You know, often when we present the show, we're the moon's cycle is very close, but in this case, it's a whole week away. So, but still, that energy is close, is significant. So the moon is in Virgo, early 8 degrees, and opposite the sun. And I guess one of the significant, well, Venus is very close to that sun. So when we talk about values, it is a matter of perhaps the consciousness of more awareness, looking opposite from the moon standpoint, isn't it? Where we're calculating, we're thinking, we're introspecting. What are the values of the Piscean energy, which is, I think we had brought up music sometimes is a quick antidote, and maybe more too, there's the shadow side, you know, what can we control over what doesn't seemingly seem to be in our control?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I always look at the full moon as a culmination or an ending, you know, and or a release. So when I see the full moon in Virgo, I feel like it's a time for us to let go of our perfection. You know, this idea of perfection. Virgo likes everything in perfect order, nice and detailed, very organized. But because it is a culmination, so the culmination could be, yeah, maybe we get the closet organized, but then there's also a release. So then you actually move stuff out of the closet and you donate it. So you're releasing what you don't need, and then you're helping other people along the way.
Well, that connects. Just today, I was surveying in our new space what could be eliminated. Yeah. And now sometimes it's not conscious. So I'm glad that you brought that up. It's like supports the need. It's like there's a function to this. I think, and would you all agree that we're getting a little more willing to accept the unknown? Because if we get rid of something, we may not have anything to replace it, but we're ready. Do you think that's part of it, or in the chart?
Well, lots of times releasing something makes room for something new.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're full, it's like there's no room for something new.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we don't even have to be aware of what the new thing coming in is. It could be a project we're working on or anything.
Exactly. And well, looking at this chart for the new moon, oh boy, you know, Mercury
or the full moon.
Go ahead.
Are we starting with the full moon?
The full moon. Sorry about this. I'm looking at it too much, not too close, not speaking out. But you know, Mercury is right between Jupiter and Saturn. And of course, those two are the rulers of the nodes. But Saturn's giving that definition, isn't it, to create new boundaries or new boundaries, structures.
Yeah, new boundaries, structures, better filters for all the influx that's coming in. And yeah, I think it's just, this is a really powerful full moon in my opinion, just because it's got all this potential and capacity for balancing polarities and opposing beliefs. It helps just to strengthen that, because of that Mercury is just so strong where it's placed in Aquarius there, and it's pulling from it's fully integrated what Saturn wants, and it's got the full flavor of that, the structure that it needs, and the determination, the fixed determination, and it's coming into that Jupiter to really expand on that, and it's part of that Yod configuration. So it's
and explain a little bit about the Yod, because that's something that maybe a lot of people don't really focus on, but it is where you have a sextile, connecting energies that are also related to one that isn't understanding the same kind of parameters or but if you look broadly enough, there is thought that it can connect, but it's a juggle. Sometimes you can't do all three at once. So it's really a very flexible situation. It needs to be flexible. And I think why they call it the God's finger, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Finger of God,
Yeah.
is because in order to really obtain the full capacity of it, you need to elevate to the highest alignment to really see the full potential.
Yeah, and Mercury is the mediator, and it's imbued with all that, the polarity of that Saturn and Mars, and it's being recognized by of the healing wisdom of Chiron there. So and when it aspects to stimulate that Virgo moon, it really makes it so it's able to articulate. I think Virgo's brilliant at being a scribe for articulating what is needed and required. So
it discerns.
Yeah. So even though, I can.
So there's. I'm sorry. I hope that was okay, because yes, I was confirming that it is a hopeful. Even though we were saying it, you have to juggle it. That with Saturn's structure and the need to express and the need to be innovative through perhaps some trauma and crisis. For instance, Texas is having, the entire United States has been swept, on a collective scale, and these are collective signs. One considers Aquarius is the larger social order, that people are experiencing some real difficulty. So the idea is how to restructure and coordinate.
Well, Saturn can be about maturity, so dealing with things in a mature way of what our wounds have been, and perhaps any work people do now will have great results.
Yeah, I think there's a real healing factor with the Yod, with the finger of God, with the Saturn and Jupiter coming together, being able to communicate what they're going through, to articulate what their wound is, right? And then being able to get a healing from that. I think there's potential for healing with this. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, and then in the chart, Saturn is the leader right now because all the planets are answering, because Saturn is the final dispositor of everything in the chart. So
because it's the final voice.
Yes.
We could say it's a dispositor.
So it's like he's the leader right now and he gets the last say, so to speak.
And healing. I love that. We could go all night about this. I think when it comes to Virgo, it does rule the 6th house naturally in that health.
Yes.
So important.
You know, we had talked earlier too about how this full moon started with the new moon in Virgo, right? September 17th of 2020. And that's when they just started working on the COVID vaccinations. And now that we're at the full moon, you know, now we've got, now there actually is a vaccine that is actually being put into the arms of people, you know, to help with to get that herd immunity thing going. So, yeah, so we've seen that from beginning to culmination, which is cool to see.
Yes, it's nice to see things that are put into action bear results.
And really that follows through with one of the emphasis that we're pulling in more and more with this panel is reflecting on past cycles of the moon, which in this case, I think, Liz, you've been calling is the lunar gestation cycle. So thank you. That's really important. I mean, it brings it right to home. If we're talking about healing, what's the big picture? Sara, what are you thinking? I know you're thinking something there.
Oh, sorry. I'm so, but I was also looking at this Venus, you know, Venus is in opposition to this Virgo full moon. And, you know, Venus is the idealist, but she's very powerful in Pisces. She's just so ethereal and effervescent there. And although she's combust the sun because she's right in the beams there,
meaning it's very close for those
very
folks.
close.
No,
yeah,
yes,
so it's not as
can't
so
see it
she
at
doesn't
night.
get so yeah she's not able to shine as brightly herself, but she is flattering the king, who hears that message of compassion. And so I think this full moon has a strong theme of doing the right thing is very satisfying. Just finding the right thing to do and following the right path has a very satisfying feeling, more satisfaction than usual.
Must have results. It must have there's some tangible results.
Yes.
Now, Liz, and you were going to jump in and do you remember what you were going to talk about with the last comment?
Well, I'm going to just comment on what Sara said, that, you know, the moon and Venus are the female planets, if you want to call them that. And so they're in opposition to each other, but Virgo and Pisces. So it's like, you know, like if you say that you want to organize something, but have compassion with yourself or compassion with the project. It's like, you know, don't push yourself to exhaustion. It's like maybe the project needs to take longer. So it's like have compassion for the project and yourself. And then
That's
Exactly good advice.
Yes, what Katherine was saying. Healing. You're right.
And then this full moon is the midpoint of the eclipse that we had November 30th at 8 degrees of Gemini. And then the next eclipse will be May 26, 21 at 5 Sag, Aquarius. So it's like we're kind of at that midway point. So I like to just kind of be very observant of what's going on, because that's where, like at a square, basically, is like, or the halfway point, it could be the culmination. It's like, what's going on? And those were lunar eclipses.
That's fascinating, because that happened to be right on my birthday, on my solar return. So that's very, on a personal basis. And remembering, too, that we're talking about mutable. So we can remember as an audience, the fact is that the nodes are in mutable Gemini, Sag, and right now we're talking about full moon. So that would be a way to look at it. So the healing. So it must get back down to what Katherine was saying too, as a focus. Just remember here, of what are we going to heal? that started last summer, and for fruition, we might say, for 3 months from now, or for Sag, in June, when the June, when the next one
May
happens.
26th will be
Okay.
the next lunar eclipse. So it's like what, was put into action at that lunar eclipse. How's that all coming about?
I'll bring up a point that was brought up during our little pre-chat, and that was, I think Katherine mentioned it, where this it assigns very much to what the compassion that Sara's talking about, and all of everybody's talk as a focus, and that is that this Virgo moon opposite the Pisces sun of compassion, let's say, it's learning to integrate for the spiritual in our everyday life. So by throwing those things out of the closet, whether it's in our brain or people or thoughts or however the process is, and I mean by people, it's like we can
Judgments. I think judgment comes a lot with Virgo. So
yes,
just
Yeah.
getting rid of that.
Yeah.
And
Kick that
questioning
to the curb.
and all the planets are below the horizon. So I would say that we're all thinking about things instead of maybe speaking out as much about it. But there's, even on world views, there's like a lot going on behind the scenes that maybe we're not aware of, but will be sometime in the near future.
It's an important process, yes, of doing that. So
and on a personal level, take time out for yourself, whether it's to take a long bath in a salt bath, or meditate, or take a walk, or just get enough sleep.
And exercise too, because being an earth sign, it is very physical. It seems to me that one of the sports people often have Aries, Mars, or else 6th house. Isn't that true? With, I think, so yes, that would support. Because for some reason, if some people, yoga or exercise might be good, but I mean, just getting out and really physically being active.
Can I mention the Sabian symbols?
Oh,
for
please.
This
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So because this is so close to 9 degrees, it's 8 degrees, 57 minutes. So I just jumped up the Sabian symbol to 10 degrees Virgo. So, and that's 2 heads looking out beyond the shadows. So, and that can symbolize 2 groups of people having different perspectives. Hello, Democrats and Republicans. Or it could be, just an internal battle that we have with ourselves, right? So, but there can be arguments or stalemates that can lead to inability to make a decision. So the message with it is that we must be open to alternatives. We must be willing to step into the other person's shoes, which I loved that visual with this Virgo moon and the sun in Pisces. It's the ability to negotiate, which is Virgo, and to be flexible, which is Pisces. And that's how we go from the shadow into the light.
Wow. Negotiate. So some of the review, that's great. We have a few minutes and let's talk about this, because the symbolic business really goes along very well with Pisces again, right? Because it is spiritual. It is the greater forces that we're not in control of. And also we were talking about all the music, whether it was John Lennon's Believe or We Are the World and all these other issues. But so the 2 heads, because that could be, again, whether it's the twins of Mercury between spirit and matter, or whether it's the karma of Capricorn, getting perhaps our judgments being morality is what I'm saying. Not judgments, but being where we're brought to task for something that wasn't in the best interest of people. So many ways, that's all I'm saying. So what was this again? How would you reinterpret? I'm eager.
I think whenever there's a full moon, it's always an opposition, right? Full moon and the sun. So I always think that it's an opportunity for us to find the happy middle ground. So they're both going to have opposite opinions. It's about bringing it together, the best of each one, bringing it together and then moving forward.
That's very grounded. I like that.
There's my Mercury
all
in
these
Taurus.
others. Yeah, that's good. Practical. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true because every time it's the reflection from that moon, from the sun's energy.
Mm-hmm.
Liz and Sara, yeah.
Well, this chart has a grand mutable cross, which is with Neptune at 20, because the other ones are at 15 and 16. It's starting to, kind of separate from that. So Vesta of home and hearth in Virgo in the 8th house, the North Node in Gemini in the 6th house, Neptune and Pisces in the 2nd house, and the South Node in Sagittarius in the 12th house. So the polarities of the 6-12 and the 2-8. The 2-8's values and resources, and the 6-12 is work and health. And, maybe we won't have to stay at home as much, the pandemic, the vaccinations, isolation. It's all kind of what we've been in, but it's like kind of starting to separate now.
Yes, and the necessity, though, to focus on our routine day life.
Yes.
How do we, and our neighborhoods, our close group. Okay, this is the Moonbeam Team on February 20th, and I'm with Liz Muschett, Katherine Metcalf, and Sara Stromley, and I'm Sue Rose Minahan. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Pisces, ruled modernly by Neptune and by Jupiter in traditional astrology of the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on the equality of all humans and brilliancy, Pisces concludes the 12 signs that energetically encompass the entirety of the universe, where humans have no control. As a mutable water sign represented by two fish swimming in opposite directions of the forces of life, we experience in Pisces the collective unconscious energy of the unknown. Intuitive, psychic Pisces completes the seed cycle, initiated with Aries' willful separation from the Piscean womb.
Talk Cosmos brings you leading-edge astrology. Enjoy the show.
Greetings. This is Susanna Lobier, licensed acupuncturist, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk, 11:50 a.m., where we unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness.
Walking your talk? Take us with you. The KKNW app makes streaming our programming easy on your phone or tablet.
Hello again. We're back, and we were just talking about the Virgo full moon on the 27th of February, which is still a week away, unless you're listening to it. And we are going to continue with the Pisces New Moon, which is on March 13th, 2021, and that in New York or the East Coast, anywhere Eastern time, is going to be at 5:21 a.m. And we're choosing. It's like, where do you choose the chart time? Because you can always adapt it by hours to your own time. But it is indicative of the United States, and we are broadcasting from the United States to our friends everywhere. And we're so glad to have you join us. And please comment at any time. We'd love to hear from you. And I am thinking of the idea that moons are stories. We brought that up earlier. Katherine was mentioning it, and it's our emotions of our stories of our emotions, the stories of our events. How do we piece things together? And interestingly, just looking at this chart, the last one that was mentioned, Liz was mentioning, and I don't need to say who mentioned these things, but I'm trying to bring credit to where credit's due, I guess, or something, or involve all of us. But it was below the horizon, meaning it was on a personal basis. There's these focuses of looking at astrology. Well, when you look at this chart from the East Coast, is on the eastern side. Astrology, the chart has its directions. Very, very important in astrology because the actual horizon and the meridian have the 4 directions, which is a ancient metaphysical healing structure with many indigenous thought. So back to this chart, it's all on the eastern side, which really means that all that deep thinking, are not just thinking, but feeling, and we can elaborate if people feel like it, but the involvement of what's going on for me, personal, in the center of oneself, is now being exhibited as a self energy moving out into the world. And it's Pisces, 23 degrees. So back to the idea that it's full of compassion and a love boat, huh? Is it?
Mm-hmm. It is. I love the chart for the new moon on March 13th. And it is peace, love, and birdseed time. So come on out, all you hippies.
Get your tie-dye.
That's right. Wear your tie-dye that day.
Or at least smell the air. You know, I often think air takes in such, it's like a fragrance. Whether it's the ocean or the mountains or the grasses of the land and everything, it's just so delightful. It's a whole story in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm an air person, but yes,
there's so many planets in Pisces that day. I mean, the sun and the moon and Neptune and Venus, like all the sweet, happy, spiritual, planets. And when we were talking about it before, I kept seeing that visual of that old Pepsi commercial or whatever it was, with everybody standing, holding hands and singing "We Are the World." That is how this one feels to me. Oh,
and it's tight, 4 degrees. I mean, that's a good conjunction. Yeah, they're all really.
Yep. They're rubbing shoulders.
Yeah, I like to emphasize that it's on a Saturday too. But it's just super, I agree with you entirely. It's just a supercharged moon with creative and visionary, spiritually connected, with all these conjunctions to the compassionate sun, the exalted Venus, and the dream catcher planet of Neptune, all clustered together, and peace, love, and happiness. Kumbaya. But the power of Pluto is in a sextile, and it's appreciating and it's lending to all of this a friendly support for this moon to really reach for, and a helping hand to reach for what you're wanting. And Mercury is the midpoint between these two. It's the bridge, and it's especially brilliant at this degree of Aquarius and exalted. So I just think it's perfect for connecting to the translation of the higher vision, the planning process, and aiding and moving and connecting with needed resources.
Really, how could I express this quickly or simply? I don't know if it has to be quickly, but as listening, I'm thinking sometimes people might think, oh, that's all sweet and lovely. But the fact is, there are moments in time where that aspires, because we're talking energy and we're talking a reflection of the cosmos that's offering an opportunity. And to really take stock that a new moon, of course, there's philosophy, both, as we had said, releasing with the full moon in order to make space for the new moon. With the new moon, to make those, it's an opportunity to ascribe to one's highest dreams and capacities. A dream catcher, boy, that really stood out for me. So this isn't insignificant. Each month we have a chance to reboot our internal compass. So I'm taking this seriously. I'm thinking, oh boy.
Well, and
Yep.
with Venus conjunct Neptune, I would imagine that people are wanting to get out and visit, or if you're single, to maybe have a relationship, or
This
to
is
even.
this is when Valentine's should be rescheduled too.
And if you have a relationship, maybe you want to make improvements to it. This new moon, it's like you can kind of imagine it, and I would say write it down, Mercury, or say it out loud, or find a song that represents it, or some pictures, and manifest it.
Mm-hmm. Sing a song. I mean, really, do we sing enough? I think.
Yeah.
In fact, that was one of the hardships with COVID, was to realize that choirs, because you expel, and by singing, of course, forces it out. Somehow I think bands have managed, but I mean, I used to do a lot of music, and so I have some sympathy with this, and compassion, because it isn't voice and singing. When we think of sonnets, so many of our literature is from that form, and there's great joy and sorrow. I mean, from either the blues or songs or joyful, hallelujah, or else, oh dear weary me. It's like either way, it really is a cathartic. Didn't you bring up, I think, Sarah, something about the weepy films? Thinking about cathartic.
Yeah.
What was that comment?
Yeah, it's just a great time to do those really heartfelt Disney or other Hallmark themed, romantic or heartbreaking movies, and just have a good cry. It's just there's actually enzymes that are released from the liver that help detoxify your body when you cry. And it just, sometimes we just need to get it out. And sometimes a good movie will help with that. And
yeah. Beaches. That one still gets me.
the movie Beaches. Yeah.
Oh, and I think
this,
of, go ahead. No.
This new moon does not go void, of course, until 6 hours after when what Sara had said about Pluto sextiling the sun and moon. So it won't go. So you have 6 hours to work on it, on your manifestation and your desires.
That's positive. And the idea of Pluto helping in support really does give the full spectrum that transformation is for our better good. And to get that kind of support without a harsh lesson or signature or sign, because really it is becoming sensitive. Why do we do this? We do this so that we can understand that the confirmation that some of our feelings, like me wanting to get rid of my stuff, yes, it's time to let the new in. And so I think,
and Pluto's in that 11th house, so it's your groups and friends, and the new moon's in the first house, so that can help you. And the first house is about self. So ask your friends and groups, or how you're networking, to help you or assist you or agree with you.
That's beautiful, because
it can be very simple.
Yeah, that's a really good message. That Pluto gives us the ability. I mean, you can get, there's a healing aspect with that, again, with being vulnerable with all that Pisces energy, putting yourself out there, like on Facebook. I'm seeing more and more of that, of people going through stuff, and they're putting out there what they're going through. And then their groups are coming in with that Pluto energy going, hey, it's okay. We've got your back. We believe in you, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's more of that. The power of love and kindness can transform us.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was also going to add that it's really good to start up, even now, with the practice of telling the subconscious to remember your dreams as you lay down to sleep, and then write them down as soon as you wake up in the morning. So they just don't evaporate before, they just kind of evaporate in the ether if you don't really make send your subconscious that message. I I am going to remember my dreams. Poke, poke. And I'm going to double down on Liz's suggestion to plant intentions, because this is a really, really good time to do that.
About dreams, because I've loved dreams since day one, and some of them are my best friends. I remember them all. I mean, not all, but these, I have a whole handful of precious ones. And so I've looked at different, books and whatnot about it. And one idea is, there's two ideas. One idea I say, and that is to look at your hands at night. You look at your hands like this and you imprint them. And then when it's a process, because actually drawing, as we've all probably written our dreams down, it becomes a stronger muscle. You do have that reflexive memory if you scribble it, or you get a method. Some people talk into a microphone, unless you,
that can help.
Scrawling. Yeah. So anyway, that makes it lucid. There is that idea. And the other one I was wondering about, Emoto, the scientist, Emoto, the Japanese scientist.
The water guy.
Yes, the water guy. And now I may be getting all this mixed up in my brain here as far as correct association. I apologize. But the idea is you take a glass of water, maybe it wasn't him, and you drink half of it with your question. And then the next morning you drink the other half. Yeah. So regardless, Emoto is great. But in that case, you could perhaps say, I am remembering my dream. Drink it. And then I'm going to try that. And then the next morning, drink the other half and scribble it down.
Yeah. Just don't drink a whole lot, because, you don't want to have that emergency break in the middle of the night when you should be,
it's
when
inevitable.
You should be remming.
Well, and even if you remember 5 or 6 words, then the next time maybe you'll remember 10 or a couple paragraphs.
Yeah,
it
doesn't always
somewhere.
It doesn't consistently work, but it's like you said, it's like a muscle. You just work it and work it more. It gets better over time.
And it does bring in this fact of the validity of the nonlinear. And I think Pisces has that strength that in our society, we're opening up more to, as we understand so many of these energies we could talk about that are coming, maybe the grand mutation of Jupiter and Saturn on the 21st in December, that's now ushering in 200 years of air energy, which I bring up often, but it is bringing up that idea that we get information from other ways than just linear or ways that we can substantiate and prove in a way. I mean, there's signs that we understand, and dreams are one of them. There's many people that have written books over dream, inspired, or done paintings, so it's part of making that room in Virgo so that we can start communicating this way through the spirit that you talked about.
And this new moon on March 13th is the midpoint for the solar eclipse that was on December 14th at 23 degrees Sagittarius. And the next solar eclipse will be June 10th at 19 degrees Gemini.
Oh, so that was, that was last December that we had it. And that was, we'd had a new president, and it was before the grand conjunction. And we were, I know our country was talking about Georgia's January 5th election that was becoming, between that and the holiday process, on the mind of everybody progressively.
With all the hope there for change, right?
Yes.
For peace and love and birdseed.
Build a fountain. Yeah, it's so true. I will say next week, now we're a little early to announce this, but next week we'll have 2 astrologers from the Seattle area, Karen Wenderland, that has been on various times, and Marcia Bouchard. Yeah, and who's a traditional astrologer. And we're going to be talking very insightful ideas about communication. So it'll be exciting.
Was Wendy why we're
No,
not? No,
I don't
okay.
know. I
Okay.
think we're okay.
Okay.
At any rate, yeah, it'll be a smaller group. It won't be 4. So at any rate, and do subscribe to YouTube. Talk Cosmos is on YouTube. So right now I am with Sara Stromley of Redmond at the bottom and Liz Muschett at the top of Camino Island, both in Washington, and Katherine Metcalf of Illinois. Wonderful astrologers of many dimensions. And we're talking about the Pisces New Moon that followed the Virgo Full Moon. So,
Katherine, did you look up the Sabian symbol for this new moon?
Oh, yes, please.
I did. So the Sabian symbol is 24 degrees Pisces. And it says, it's a tiny island, seems lost in the broad ocean, but its inhabitants have created a great world. That's so perfectly in alignment with the energy of this new moon. And it's a celebration of each other's individuality. And then they had a little quote by Albert Einstein there. And it says, how I wish that somewhere there existed an island for those who are wise and full of goodwill.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Perfect. Maybe we can make it here.
And a boat to get there.
Well, I made my own saying of accept our limitations and our abilities to live a fulfilled and centered life.
Beautiful.
Yes. And doesn't that say it? Because yes, it does. That is.
Can you say that again, Liz? That was beautiful.
Accept our limitations and our abilities to live a fulfilled and centered life.
Nice.
And dream beyond, and dream.
Dream big.
Dream big.
Dream big.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in that particular chart, looking at the March 13 chart for folks at 5:21 a.m. in the East Coast, and of course that would be on the West Coast at 2:21 a.m. There's Pallas Athena that is right on the ascendant
rising sign.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring up another point that on the Virgo one, Mercury that we were talking about, it also in a great position there, that was at that time between, let me check that. I think it was at one degree. Let me see here. Oh, quick, Sue. Rats. Yes. What was that? Well, okay, skip it. I was thinking it was the same degree as here it is.
Mercury was 13 degrees Aquarius in the
so
Virgo full moon.
Okay, I was thinking of the beginning of the grand conjunction at 0 or 1 degree Aquarius. But here, Pallas Athena, the strategist, is exactly on the ascendant. So there's really a lot of asteroid feminine mental. I mean, she's the warrior that is the strategist warrior of life.
So that we have the ability to bring that warrior goddess into our lives.
Yes,
and move
cause
forward.
And to defend, to cause, to put together, because in this case the energies may not be so linear, as I said, not like the Virgo new moon that is organizational and Mercury driven and needs the lines and the dots, like you said, not to be too perfect.
Color between the lines, please.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, yes.
I don't know if we have time to talk about this, but I know, Liz, you had talked about the metonic lunar eclipses, right, that are related to this?
I was talking about the gestational phases, the lunar gestational phases.
Well, I know we made notes about 1959
That was
1978 and
Yeah,
1997.
I brought up the Metonic. It's a 19-year cycle. It's
Okay.
exact same degree. And when it comes to eclipses, it is in a pattern of 4 or 5 years. Now, this particular one is not, but I think Sara brought up the years that were at this degree that were back.
I have a few
that was-
examples that kind of
Mhm.
resonate with that, with our upcoming full moon this coming weekend on the
Okay.
27th. And Amelia, in 1932, Amelia Earhart, she made her first transcontinental nonstop flight.
One of my favorite
Ni-
heroes.
I know. And then
I love her.
1952, the first transcontinental TV broadcast was made by U.S. President Truman, and that was covering the Japanese peace treaty that was occurring at that time. And what kind of tickled my brain on this one was that there's still a hoard of gold that Truman secretly approved to search for of the Japanese emperor at the time, that's believed to still be buried in the Philippines, that's still being sought to this day.
And this is for the Virgo, you're saying?
Virgo
at
full moon.
8
Yeah, that
Yeah.
eclipse degree right in there. And then in 1970, Elton John made his first U.S. musical appearance. So, and he was a big splash here. Jimi Hendrix was also doing stuff around this time too. It was very historical as well. So,
Yeah, it would
Cool.
be interesting. It is a interesting concept to see how does that thread back, because the ones I remembered you had brought up also were for Pisces in the new moon, which is 23 degrees Pisces. And the last one would have gone back to 1997. But, you know, I did not look up any of that historical evidence to see which.
I did.
Oh, did you? Goody. Let's go.
good.
All
Let's
right.
hear it.
Yeah.
So here's some of the groovy stuff. So it went from 1959, which is the year I was born. So 1978 and then 1997. So in 59, so this is with the new moon, which is the peace, love, and birdseed one. So with 1959, Khrushchev visited the United States when Ike was president.
Woo, that's
so that
the
was
borders.
a big deal, right?
Yeah,
Russia
no borders
coming
anymore.
coming to America. And then in 1978 was the peace negotiations between Egypt and Israel. So it was Anwar Sadat, Menachem Begin, and Jimmy Carter. So another peace, related thing. Now, I didn't find a peace one in 1997, but I found that Wales actually separated from England. So that, again, is kind of about boundaries. I mean, they all were kind of about boundaries, but doing what's right for, trying to communicate, but then doing what's right. So, yeah. So just interesting stuff.
Thank you so much on both accords. I think this is a fascinating way to start seeing the micro and the macro, and that's continual thread. So collectively, we're really moving in great dimensions. That's
and with this
so
new moon, the
interesting.
planets are still all answering to Saturn. He's the final dispositor in this chart also.
Oh.
Yeah, and
that'll
there is
change here pretty soon.
Well, and there was an opportunity too or a chance that something big could be exposed. That was a secret because we had Mercury and Jupiter conjunct in the 12th house.
They are. Now we have a minute left. And so from that standpoint, we have lots of love and flowers happening. But the fact is that it really gets down to us centering in ourself. If we can get that daily routine of the Virgo energy to open up the spaces and declutter what in a healing process so we can open and connect with our spiritual energies, which we all are. It's part of our heritage, despite the religions or anything else. It's a endowed fact. So, and get some structure, right? Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
all. This is the
Thank
Moonbeam
you.
Team. Yes, and that's again Liz, Sara, and Katherine, and myself, Sue. So subscribe, and we will be back. Well, we'll be back in the 4th season. It's happening. We're going to go to Sundays. Okay, I got to hang up.
Thank you for listening to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 6 p.m. to continue finding your roots in the stars.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host,